This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, good morning everyone. Shalom Aleichem, Ruchim Abam. We continue in Mishna Berura Daf HaShavua. We're learning Hilchos Tefillin, Siman Chavches Dinei Chalitzas HaTefillin. The laws of removing Tefillin. Sif Aleph. Chayiv Adam L'mashmish V'Tefillin B'chol Shah. Person is obligated to position his tefillin and touch his tefillin always. One is obligated always to be touching his tefillin. Not to divert your mind from them. First you touch the shalyad. When you say ukshartem la'ois, you should feel the shalyad. Now we had an idea about kissing tzitzis, whether that's a hefsek, that's not a hefsek. But it seems like touching the tefillin is different. Not kissing them, but touching them, because that's part of the mitzvah of tefillin. Now one is not supposed to be meisiach das from the tefillin. So as part of not being meisiach das from the tefillin, one should always feel them. Now this is a very hard idea. One cannot divert his mind from the tefillin. How do you daven? When you're davening, are you thinking about the tefillin? Apparently, I don't think so. But I think that's part of that's not a stiro, it's not a contradiction. But, could you hear me? But when it seems like one should be frequently touching their tefillin as a way of focusing on them. Says the Mishna Berura, B'chol Shah, Perush B'chol Shah Shenizkar B'hem Chayv L'mashish. Whenever you think about the tefillin, you're obligated to touch them. Now, the minhag of kissing your hand when you touch them is not mentioned. The Aruch HaShulchan says some people, they kiss their hand after they touch the tefillin, and there's no basis for that. You know, many people, they go, why are you kissing your hand? No, there's no basis to kiss your hand. If you like your hand, you know, I'm sure many people like their hand. I mean, the hand is a very good thing to have, but I'm sure your hand would kiss you too if it could. But there's no basis to kiss your hand after you touch the tefillin. The Chai Adam Kitzur Aruch says you should kiss the hand that you touch the tefillin. The Sha'ar Ephraim explains that by touching the tefillin, it's like a roishem of the kedusha remains on the hand. Rav Shlomo Zalman was noyeg to put the ritzuos or the talis on the tefillin, and that's what he would kiss. In other words, not that he would. What about the mezuzah? Same thing. Not brought anywhere to kiss the mezuzah. Doesn't say anywhere to kiss the mezuzah, except for the ari. But what it does say in halacha is that when you walk through a door, you're obligated to think about the contents of a mezuzah. That it does say, although it does not say to kiss the mezuzah. So what do? We are oiches the tafel, and we're meiniach the ikar. So next time you walk into a room and you want to kiss the mezuzah, resist the urge to do somewhat of a act that has no basis in halacha, and fulfill the absolute obligation to think about the contents of the mezuzah. Anyway, what about the question, should I go kiss the mezuzah when I say uchsavtem al mezuzah speisecha? Right, that's the question. Maybe the same way when I say I should kiss the mezuzah when I say uchsavtem al mezuzah speisecha. So the Beis Yosef brings the name of Shar Tshuva Shailos Tshuva's Rivash. You don't have to. You only kiss something that's mezuman lefanav. And also he says, by tzitzis, it says, to bring to zechira, by tefillin, so you should be zoras in it. Okay. The Mishna Berura says that every time you remember the tefillin, you have to touch them. By doing so, you'll always remember them. Kaf HaChaim adds in the name of the Sefer Chesed La'alafim. When you touch them, don't feel them. Don't just touch them like, like this is like some kind of routine practice, but rather it should be bekavana to remember the tefillin and be meshabed your mayach and your leiv takadosh baruch Hu, and you should rejoice that Hashem gave you the crown of the mitzvah of tefillin. Okay. The Mishna Berura continues, the purpose of frequently touching your tefillin is to reposition them in case they fell out of the place. But while you're davening, you don't have to feel them. He brings in the dirshu, or when you're learning. Now, in Dirshu Ois 5, he says the reason is that even though it's not a Hesach Hadas, only if you're Oimid B'Schak B'Kas Roish, but it's a mitzvah always to be thinking of the tefillin and not to think bad thoughts. But at the time of tefillah or Kriya Shema, you don't have to think about them, even a mitzvah min ha-muvchar. Meaning the purpose is you're not it's not that you have to think about the tefillin. It's that you're now to have lightheaded thoughts in the tefillin. So therefore, when I'm davening, I don't have to think about the tefillin. There's no mitzvah to think about tefillin. The mitzvah is you're now to have empty thoughts, lightheaded thoughts in the tefillin. So it's not nogeh at the time of davening. He also brings here from the Bir Halacha, in the name of the Or Zarua, that the Yisra being Meseach Das from Tefillin is because when you remember, when a person thinks that they're carrying the name of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you won't come to Kalas Roish. So therefore, if you're being Mechavin B'Tfilasai or B'Limudai, you have the same type of mindset. Now, he says, Ayin B'Prima Gadim. The Dirshu says, well, if you look in the Prima Gadim says you should touch it B'Shas HaTfilah. Because we learn out the din of Hesach Hadas from the Tzitz, and there you mamish have to think about it even at the time of the Avodah. And even the second reason that you have to touch it, so that you could make sure it's in the right place, is Shaykh B'Shas HaTfilah. Says the Bir Halacha that he disagrees with the Prima Gadim, because the Ber Heite brings in Arizal, who says the opposite, and therefore, even though there are poskim that you should, the conclusion of the Bir Halacha is that during davening you don't touch the tefillin. Okay.
And we see earlier from the Shla that during davening, if it moves, it's fine because davening it's not considered Hesach Hadas for the tefillin.
Correct. But no, when we say that it's fine, it's that you don't have to make another bracha. But certainly you want to make sure that that doesn't happen, right? So the Indian of, right, good point. But
that's why maybe over here there's no Hesach Hadas, meaning...
You're saying davening is not considered a Hesach Hadas from tefillin. You see from the Shla that davening is thematic to tefillin. Right, okay, good, right. Good ha'ara. So first you touch the shel yad. Says Mishra that shel yad smucha loy lamash mashay. The shel yad is in closer proximity. Ve'in ma'avirin ala mitzvahs. So that's an interesting idea. Why do you touch the shel yad first? Because it's closer. You know, it's not right to kiss the tefillin shel roish because my hand is already here. Yeah, but what if I happen to be raising my hand? Then should I first touch the shel roish and then touch the shel yad? He says, he brings from Rav Shlomo Zalman that even though me'ikar adin you should be makdim the shel roish, but you shouldn't do it b'tzibur because people are going to learn from you and make a mistake. Okay, continue. Sif katanal tchila v'yakar b'shalosh v'beis mishus hashalosh matzur shenishma mimakaymai. Let it. What if? Okay, I'm feeling the shalosh. I see it moved out of its place. V'noidu lo yoz shashal yad gam kein nishma mimakaymai. Then tzarich lahachzer shal yad tchila mimakaymai. First, I have to reposition the shal yad mikrog shan l'seyadecha v'hadar ulatoytafos b'ninecha, like we learned in Siman Chavhei Sif Vav. Sif Beis. Taking off tefillin. Tefillin shal roish choyleitz techila mishum dechsiv v'hayu l'toitafos beinenecha. Tefillin shel rosh you take off first, because it says, V'hayu l'toitafos bein einecha, kozman shebein einecha yiyu shtayim. It says, V'hayu l'toitafos bein einecha. So you never want to leave the shel yad on, you never want to have the shel rosh on without the shel rosh, because whenever it's bein einecha, it's v'hayu, it's shtayim. Let's see the Mishna Berura. Choyleitz tchila. Achar shemeser gimel krichas me'etzva. Yes, you take it off first, but first you undo the 3 windings around your finger. The Mechaber continues. Tzarech lachleitz tefillin shel rosh me'umad. You have to take off the shel rosh standing up. Says the Mishna Berura me'umad. Hu adin asar sakrichas shel ha'etzba. Also, the windings around the finger should be standing. L'minagin shemnichan shel yad gamke me'umad. According to our minhag, not like the Shulchan Aruch, that we put on the shel yad standing, we have to remove it standing. The way we put it on is the way we remove it. Some have a custom to remove the head tefillin with their left hand, laharois, to show shekasha alav hachalitzasan, that it's very so difficult for them to remove it. It's hard to part with the mitzvah. V'im hu iter yad, if he's a lefty, shekam lachtem esmailai, then chotzan b'yaminoi, kedei shloi lasses hachalitza b'miros. You don't want to do the chalitza quickly. So listen to what he says. Even a lefty who writes with his right hand, but he does everything with his left hand, but he's putting on tefillin on his left hand, because when it comes to tefillin, writing is the main factor. He would also remove the tefillin with the left hand, even though he writes with his right hand. So the conclusion was, okay, if you write with your right hand, you put on tefillin, you're considered a righty, so you put on tefillin with your left hand. So, even though he's like every other righty, when it comes to what hand he puts tefillin on, he's going to remove the tefillin with his left hand, because at the end of the day, the point here is it's a weaker hand, and he doesn't want to remove it so quickly. Okay, we're going to hold it over here. Be'ezus Hashem, we'll finish up Sif Beis next time, and Siman Chav Ches. Wishing everyone a wonderful day and Agun Shabbos. Kol Tov, everyone.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.